hydrogen fuel cell component of this, in your opinion, is perhaps the more valuable one?
Well, we certainly thought it was more than a truck company, more than an EV or even a hydrogen truck company. There's hydrogen stations, there's energy storage, there's a lot of different businesses rolled up into one in here, which we thought was attractive.
Steve Girsky has replaced Trevor Milton as chairman at Nikola. Today, we're going to talk about who is he and whether or not he's right for the job, for the too long didn't read crowd. The answer is no. He's part of the old guard. He was a managing partner at VectoIQ, the SPAC that merged with Nikola to take it public. And they examined over 100 companies and signed 75 non-disclosure agreements and 6 letters of intent. Before choosing electric and fuel cell truck maker Nikola Motors, he helped choose that Nikola and Trevor Milton were the one they wanted to go for. So either he already knew about all these things that came out or he didn't. And people were already accusing them of not really doing their due diligence. And this is the dude replacing them. He basically anointed Trevor as the king. Like, this is the one. Trevor was basically the chosen one in Steve Girsky's eyes because he chose their company. But Steve Girsky is, to his credit, a lot more accomplished and seemingly well-spoken when compared to Trevor. And maybe he did see some issues because Trevor Milton stepped down as CEO the moment they went public. But Trevor Milton became the chairman, which is now the position that Steve Girsky replaced him with. And we'll also talk today about what exactly an executive chairman does because it varies from company to company. But first, let's just give an intro of who Steve Girsky is. Mr. Girsky has a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics and Systems Science from the University of California at Los Angeles and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Whether or not you think colleges are super necessary, that's still pretty impressive. At least he has a good background in math instead of just a background in laying concrete. That's already a big plus. What about his past jobs? So, like I said, he was managing partner of VectoIQ. He also served in a number of capacities at General Motors from November 2009 to July 2014, including GM Vice Chairman, having responsibility for global corporate strategy, new business development, global connected consumer, research and development, etc. He also served on the General Motors Board of Directors following its emergence from bankruptcy in June 2009 until June 2016. Now, let me ask you this. Who are all the players in this Nikola debacle? Nikola, VectoIQ, and GM, and Steve has had his fingers in all of it. He is the one maybe even more responsible for Trevor because I don't think Trevor could put this together by himself. He's just not that smart. Steve Girsky, on the other hand, he definitely saw an opportunity. Now, like I said in my previous videos, I think GM is clawing on for life. Actually, most automakers, if you look in a long enough time frame, they are all in trouble because EV seems to be the future and Tesla is miles ahead of everyone. And then we talk about a company like GM who is within a dying gasoline industry, is in the bottom of the barrel when you compare them to other car manufacturers. From my perspective, GM doesn't have a lot to lose. They're already on the downward. And Steve sees an opportunity because Nikola doesn't have all the baggage GM does. Well, not at the time. But Steve was very smart and probably contributed, I'm guessing, this is all speculation and my opinion, to convincing Trevor that, okay, you should step down, but as executive chairman, you could be the hype man and you could say you have all the power, but the actual CEO work, we'll give that to Mark Russell, who seems like a much more competent and level-headed person. But what exactly does an executive chairman do? So the chairman of a company is the head of its board of directors. The balance between the CEO and chairman varies from company to company. Mainly the CEO is the person in charge of actively managing the company and making decisions. The chairman generally makes very high-level decisions and sets the general direction of the company and leads the board meetings. Again, it varies. And knowing Trevor the way we do, knowing his ego, he specifically said, oh, I have more power now. You know that he definitely still wants to make decisions, especially since he's the person that started this company. So I'm guessing in the Nikola construction of the business, he still had a lot of say in the business, even though he wasn't running the day-to-day. He essentially turned into a hype man of some sorts. Who knows how much power he actually had behind the scenes, but all we do know is that nobody muffled them. They were all in support of him talking up all this stuff that he didn't have, and they were all complicit because if the board really wanted them to stop talking and could convince them that this was better for the company, they would have. Once money is on the line, I'm sure you can get people to do anything. But the fact that they kind of let him loose and just go on all these interviews, that means that ultimately Steve Girsky was okay with it. Doesn't matter if deep down he thought that this was a bad idea. Steve Girsky dealt directly with Milton as one of the decision makers at Vecto IQ. So he is also responsible. They're all responsible together. So that's just a quick summary of who Steve Girsky is. Like I said, if Nikola wants to have a future, I don't think anybody involved with all of the previous issues, especially somebody that was one of the puppet masters in putting this all together and essentially chose Nikola as the company to merge with when he saw a bunch of other companies, over 100, that maybe didn't have as much ambition as Nikola, but you could probably find a company with a founder that wasn't blatantly lying or had actually built something, but you just saw an opportunity to, I want to say, make a quick buck or make a scammy buck. And everybody in the old guard needs to go. If you want to have any chance of surviving at all, it's like, imagine there's a corrupt king and there's a revolution of some sort. We're trying to take down the establishment. We're going to want to replace that king with somebody that probably didn't like him, right? That's the best chance we have to have some real change. We don't want to replace the king with his best friend. I don't know if Steve and Trevor were best friends, but at least on the surface, they're tight. They supported each other. They're the masterminds of all this. So how are they supposed to really turn things around? Watching some videos of Steve and looking at his background, I think he will be better than Trevor Milton, but better than Trevor Milton is a very low bar, and we need to shoot higher to save this company. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. This is Green Knight Trading, where Squires become knights, and I'll see you next time.
Tell me everything.